It all started on a quiet Saturday morning, just me, my coffee, and the sound of birds outside. I had no idea that within the hour, my front yard would become the center of a ridiculous HOA drama. Out of nowhere, my neighbor, let's just call her Karen came marching up to my door, demanding to be let inside my house. Why? Because she claimed she had authority as a member of the HOA board. Yeah, that was her whole reason. No warrant, no real explanation, just straight-up entitlement. At first, I tried to stay calm, thinking maybe this was a misunderstanding, but it wasn't. She started shouting about community rules and how she needed to inspect something inside my home. That's when I told her she was trespassing and needed to leave, and that's when things got even crazier. She actually pulled out her phone called 911 on me. I stood there completely stunned as she told the dispatcher that I was being uncooperative and hiding something. Mind you, I'm just a regular guy trying to enjoy my weekend. I've never had a single issue with the HOA before, and now I'm being treated like a criminal on my own property. The cops did show up, and what happened next totally shocked me. You won't believe how far Karen was willing to go to prove her point, or how badly it backfired. Stick around, because this story takes a turn you won't see coming. So while Karen's on the phone with 911, pacing around my driveway like she owns the whole block, I'm standing there thinking, how did we even get here? I've lived in this neighborhood for 3 years, paid all my dues, never had an issue. But Karen? She just got on the HOA board a few months ago, and ever since then, it's like she's been looking for reasons to flex her new power. She's stopped me before to nitpick about my lawn, my trash cans, even where I park my truck. But trying to come into my house, that was next level. She kept saying something about a noise complaint and that she had the right to check it out herself. I told her that's not how anything works. If there's a complaint, the proper way is to report it and let the city or police handle it, not barge in like it's some kind of neighborhood dictatorship. But she wasn't having it. She kept going on about how I was obstructing HOA business and that she had documented everything. At that point, I honestly started wondering if this was more personal than she was letting on. Maybe she didn't like that I called her out in a meeting last month when she tried to fine my neighbor over a mailbox color. Or maybe she just liked stirring up drama. Either way, when the police cruiser pulled up, I thought, finally, this'll get sorted out. But I had no idea that things were about to get even messier. As the police cruiser came to a stop, Karen instantly flipped into full performance mode. She waved her arms, talking a mile a minute, acting like she was some kind of victim. She told the officer I was hostile, refused inspection, and was violating HOA code. Meanwhile, I stood there quietly, waiting for my turn to speak, because I knew how this looked. Middle of the day, neighbors shouting, cops pulling up, and me just trying to mind my own business. The officer, to his credit, stayed calm and listened to both sides. When I told him she tried to enter my home without permission and refused to leave my property, his expression changed. I handed him my doorbell footage, thank God for that camera, because it clearly showed her yelling and trying to push past me at the door. That seemed to make things more real for him. But even with the footage, Karen didn't back down. She doubled down, saying that as an HOA board member she had legal right to enter homes for investigations. The officer pulled me aside and said, "Look, HOA doesn't give her that kind of authority. This seems more personal than anything else." And I agreed. But here's where things got weird. He mentioned this wasn't the first time Karen had called in complaints on neighbors. Apparently, there'd been 3 other incidents in the past month. One involved someone repainting their deck. Another was a backyard barbecue. She was becoming infamous on the block, and now it seemed like I was just her next target. So now we're standing there, me, Karen, and the cop, and the whole street is watching from behind their blinds like it's a neighborhood soap opera. Karen's still ranting about protocols and community safety, acting like she's on some HOA mission to clean up the block. but it's clear to everyone, including the officer, that she's way out of line. Still, she refuses to leave my property. She stands right at the edge of my porch, arms crossed, daring me to make the next move. The officer tries to de-escalate things, suggesting she head home while he wraps up the report, but Karen doesn't budge. She says she'll file an official HOA violation and that I'll be facing a fine for non-compliance. I laugh a little, because again, she has no legal ground here, but it only fuels her more. Then she says something that makes my blood run cold. If you've got nothing to hide, why won't you let me in? That's when I realized this wasn't just about power. She genuinely thought she was exposing something. Like I was secretly building a meth lab in my guest room or hiding some wild illegal project in my garage. The paranoia in her voice wasn't fake. It was real. That's what made it worse. But here's the kicker. Right as she starts to leave, she turns around and snaps a picture of my house. Not just the outside, she angles her phone toward the window. That's when I knew this wasn't over, not even close. As she walked off my property, phone still in hand, I thought maybe, just maybe, that was the end of it. But less than an hour later, I found out how wrong I was. I was inside trying to calm down when I got a notification from my neighborhood group app. Someone, guess who, had posted a long, dramatic message warning everyone about a potentially dangerous situation in the community. No names, of course, but the post had just enough detail that it was obvious she was talking about me. She even attached a blurry zoomed-in photo of my window with the caption, "See something suspicious? Speak up." That's when the second twist hit. A neighbor I barely knew messaged me privately and said, "Hey, just a heads up. Karen's been asking around about your house for days. Told me she thought you were running an errand or doing something unapproved by the HOA. That was news to me. I'd never even considered renting out space, but it suddenly made sense why she'd been so fixated lately. She was trying to catch me breaking a rule that didn't even apply." But here's what really spiked the tension. My doorbell camera caught her later that night. Same outfit, same phone in her hand. She was walking along the side of my house with her flashlight on, like she was casing the place. That crossed a serious line. Now this wasn't just HOA drama or a neighbor being annoying. This was starting to feel like harassment, or worse. The next morning, I'd had enough. I printed out screenshots from the doorbell footage, along with her post on the neighborhood app, and sent everything straight to the HOA president, not Karen, the actual one. I also filed a police report for trespassing, just to have it on record. I wasn't trying to escalate things, but I wasn't going to just let this slide either. That night, I finally got a call back from the HOA board, and what they told me, that's where everything turned. Turns out, I wasn't the only neighbor who'd reported Karen's behavior. In fact, several people had already sent in complaints about her trying to inspect homes, photographing backyards, and even knocking on doors late at night. The board had been quietly gathering statements, trying to build a case, and my footage was the final straw. They called an emergency meeting the next day, without Karen, and officially voted to suspend her from the HOA board pending further investigation. But just when I thought that would be the end of it, I got a knock at my door. It wasn't Karen. It was her husband. I'd barely spoken to the guy before, but he looked tired, almost embarrassed. He apologized on her behalf and then said something that stopped me cold. "She's convinced someone's hiding something on this block, not just you." That's when it hit me. This whole thing might have never been about me. I was just caught in the middle of something way deeper, and whatever it was, it still wasn't over. After that conversation with her husband, everything started to make more sense. Karen wasn't just power-tripping over HOA rules. She genuinely believed there was some kind of neighborhood conspiracy. Whether it was paranoia, stress, or something deeper going on with her personally, I'll never really know. But in a strange way, I stopped taking it so personally. I wasn't the only one she had targeted. I was just the one who finally pushed back with proof. A few days later, I got an email from the HOA board confirming that Karen had been officially removed from her position. They apologized for the trouble and thanked me for bringing the issue to light. The neighborhood chat slowly calmed down, and a few neighbors even stopped by to thank me for standing up to her. Some of them had been afraid to say anything before, thinking they were the only ones dealing with her overreach. A few days later, I got an email from the HOA board confirming that Karen had been officially removed from her position. They apologized for the trouble and thanked me for bringing the issue to light. The neighborhood chat slowly calmed down, and a few neighbors even stopped by to thank me for standing up to her. Some of them had been afraid to say anything before, thinking they were the only ones dealing with her overreach. I beefed up my home security just in case, but thankfully, things returned to normal. No more random visits, no more 911 calls, just peace and quiet, the way it should have been from the start. If there's one thing this whole mess taught me, it's that standing your ground matters, especially when someone tries to cross boundaries that were never theirs to begin with. HOA rules or not, nobody has the right to invade your space or make you feel unsafe in your own home. And yeah, I still check the doorbell cam a little more often now, just in case.